And now it's time for some things in the news that caught my eye, and this story is kind of funny. It looks like Samsung was doing a publicity stunt involving one of those high-altitude space balloons, and they made this stupid thing that looks like a satellite that they sent up on the balloon. Now, the way these balloons work is that when they get to a certain altitude, the balloon pops and then the payload comes back down, usually with a parachute, especially if it's something this large. And it crashed into a farm, I believe somewhere in Michigan. Yes, in Saginaw County, Michigan. And the media initially reported it as a crashed Samsung satellite. But as you can see here, it looks like it's in pretty good shape, not like it survived atmospheric re-entry. And again, that was because it was launched off of a weather balloon, essentially. So there you can see a picture of it going up. And I guess their plan was to have people submit selfies that they would transmit up to the phone or have preloaded on the phone to deliver this image from this satellite thing that they sent up into a very high altitude. And that was the plan. But now the story is all about the fact that it crashed into this farm, and the farmers were quite surprised when this thing landed. Now, I was curious about these things because you hear a lot of uproar over people flying drones all over the place without any need to get certified or anything like that. You do now have to register your drone with the FAA and take a short little course to let them know that you know what you're doing. If you do commercial work, of course, it's a little bit more involved. But interestingly, weather balloons follow a very similar lack of regulatory oversight here in the U.S. And I found a post here from Lunar Technologies, which I believe was selling equipment to do your own balloons. And they say almost all amateur balloon payloads, including those sold by Lunar, are designed to be exempt from FAA regulations, so you're not required to do anything listed below for heavier payloads in order to launch. But they did have a few things to keep in mind in order to avoid falling into that regulatory framework. Your payload has to be less than 4 pounds, or your payload is less than 6 pounds, and the smallest surface is more than 36 square inches to kind of distribute the weight, it looks like. You can have 2 payloads, but they have to weigh less than 12 pounds together. And if you have a rope, it takes less than 50 pounds of force to break it off. Just don't use carbon fiber, they say. Regular rope should be fine. And a friend of mine does launch these quite a bit, and he does tell me that when the balloon pops, they come down. You can kind of get a feel as to where it might end up, but the wind tends to blow things around. He puts on a little transmitter on his balloon so that he can go down and find it. Oftentimes it beams back to the cellular network its GPS location. You have to be sure not to turn on the phone until it gets down to the ground, apparently, but once it's there, it can start pinging its location. And it's not unusual for your balloon, of course, to land on somebody's property, and then you have to call them up and ask permission to come and retrieve it. So what happened here with the Samsung balloon is not all that unique. I just thought it was kind of funny to see this imagery of a crashed, what looks like a crashed satellite, but nothing there was functional. In fact, I don't think these solar panels were working either. So if you happen to see anyone in the media reporting this as a crashed satellite, make sure that they appropriately call it space gear or weather balloon or device, because it's certainly not a satellite. It never reached orbit.
This channel is brought to you by the Lon.TV supporters, including gold-level supporters, the Four Guys with Quarters podcast, Chris Allegretta, Tom Albrecht, Brian Parker, and Kalyan Kumar. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to lon.tv/support to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit lon.tv/s.